Okay, so earlier this week I went onto social media and I looked up a bunch of people that were posting about the Call to Actions contest. Partly because I wanted to see what kind of stories others were doing, and partly because I wanted to see how good everyone else was. I wanted to be able to measure my skill to others and see what my chances were of getting into the upper ranks. I personally do this with most things art related, when I'm presenting side by side with other artists, even in school when I'm doing a class assignment. Now I could potentially be competitive by nature, but I also just want to be sure that I'm bringing something of my own to the table. Seeing what others can do and have done helps me to push myself beyond limits I may have subconsciously set for myself. It also reassures me if I'm on the right path, or lets me see if I should change my approach for something more convenient. Right now, it seems like a lot of us are either writing, designing characters, or both. And designing characters is what I'm going to talk about in this video. But before I talk about what's going on in the background here, I would just like to say, welcome to Edenwick, a creative knowledge center of exploration where I share my long and dangerous art journey, along with some lessons and tips that I learned along the way. If you like art and art-related videos, don't be afraid to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. I'm hoping together we can build an art community that promotes growth and creativity for beginner and intermediate artists, so we can help each other transcend and reach greatness. Now, on to the video. Okay, so I'm definitely not a professional or expert in character design, and who knows how much of what I say today will be changed in a video later down the road. But for now, I will give you my beginner's approach to designing good characters. Though I'm pretty sure a year from now, I'll look back and see everything wrong with my characters today. But anyway, first step is prep. You want to know what you're getting yourself into before you scratch pen to canvas. The thing about prep is that it is circumstantial. Based on what you are doing, you will have to prepare differently. For the sake of time, I will assume you already know your story and the type of character you want to make. So what you need is reference and inspiration. A collection of images that helps give an idea of what you want the character to look like. Designing something new directly from imagination can be difficult, and even frustrating. More often than not, I find myself drawing a blank, especially when drawing something grounded in reality. My visual library is limited to things that I can easily think of, which aren't helpful for designing something new. But with a push from reference images, I can think of ways to translate what I have into the design I am trying to make. Things to avoid when using reference would be relying heavily on concepts from other artists, and drawing exactly what you see in the images. When you draw exactly what you see in an image, you're sort of just playing dress up with your character, and that's only if you actually design the body and head on your own. If you are drawing everything from your reference exactly, including face and body, then that's not design at all, and in more extreme cases, it is just simply copying. It's for the same reason that you don't want to rely heavily on designs done by other people. I know it's tempting to want to reference concept art you like when making your own concept art, because it looks just like what you want to make. But that's the issue. It looks exactly like what you want to make. So why make what's already made? Since all the work has already been done, you may end up making little to no design decisions and just copy-paste what you like onto a mannequin in a collage-like fashion. And if you don't even know how the designs work, then it won't even turn out as good as you want it to, or as you think it is. But I must also add that this rule is not set in stone. There are just simply some things that don't have a real-world reference and can only be found in art. In addition, with enough knowledge of the fundamentals, it is not rare for artists to steal techniques and ideas from other artists that they like. It is up to you as the artist to manage when and what references you use in order to get an outcome that is unique enough to call your own. But even then, there are a few more rules to follow and questions to ask. Now, if you want an expert or professional approach on designing characters, there are a ton of videos about character designs from the pros on YouTube, but I took what I can from them and dumbed it all the way down in order for me to understand it. And in most cases, I just rely on intuition rather than psychology and all that. I'm just not at that level yet. But first, I worry about the silhouette and the anatomy of the character. I find that if I'm just drawing a normal person, it is easier for me to draw their body shape rather than their silhouette. Since I don't exaggerate their forms much, it's easier for me to just start with the body and maybe a rough layout of their hair. This changes though if my character is not a normal human or is wearing something that determines their character design, such as armor, costume, or iconic uniform. A character silhouette can determine how someone feels about them at a glance. A large silhouette with a small head usually presents somebody that is large, and a silhouette with a large head and a small body usually represents somebody that is small or meant to be cute. And of course, we all know that triangles represent danger, a circle represents purity, and a square represents stability. Their meanings get a bit more complicated and versatile, but I'm not in the best position to explain them. I go by intuition and just shape things until they feel right. Not the best way to do things, but I am still learning. In this case, I am drawing a dark forest spirit that grows limbs like branches and attacks with roots in the ground. Her silhouette is definitely not normal, but with how chaotic it can get, I wanted to skip the phase of turning the silhouette into designs due to the current time restraints. But I am still thinking about the forms of the character through the use of posture and anatomy, along with how the branches look coming out of her. I must also remember that this character is being used for a comic that needs to be made fast, so making the design too complicated would be a big mistake. So since I know the silhouette of the character will be chaotic, I must make the inside less detailed and easier to draw. That brings us to my second phase, clothing and accessories. This is where you take the shape or shapes you created and you fill in the details on the inside. What their clothes or armor looks like, and if they have any belts or patterns. If you're just drawing a normal person in normal clothes, you can take this time to figure out how they dress and if they carry around any important items. If you're making a character that doesn't wear clothes, then you decide things like skin texture and further anatomical detail. At this point, everything you draw comes with 3 questions. Does it look good? Does it help tell the character's story or personality? And how does it work or function? At least one of these questions should be relevant at all times, and in some cases all of them. You see, when a character is wearing a simple t-shirt, it may just be because it looks good with the current outfit they have. Or it can tell us that they don't really care too much about what they wear, or maybe can't afford anything better. But we all already know how a t-shirt functions, so you don't really have to think about that. With armor, things can get more complicated and detailed. The functionality of how armor looks determines how the character can realistically move, or if the armor is actually protecting them and how. The functionality and how armor looks determines how the character can realistically move, or if the armor is actually protecting them. It is also important to know how people actually put armor on. In addition, you can add wear and tear, symbols, and other accessories to tell what the character may have been through, who they ally with, and how they fight. For the current character, though I must leave the interior simple, I have decided to add a piece of a kimono in order to represent who the character used to be in relation to what they have become. I've added bandages to represent death and decay, along with branches and leaves to symbolize the forest. Or at least that's what I decided during the making of this video. After I have a better idea of what the character will look like as a whole, I take some time to define the head and face. I should already have an idea of what the hair and head shape should be, but if things need to be changed, I will change them in order to better fit the design I have and any new ideas I have come up with. At this phase, I sorta just treat it like a character customization screen for video games, changing the shape and size of different parts of the face and moving them around until I get something I like. I won't go into everything I consider when drawing a face because it is a lot and I am honestly still trying to figure it out. But maybe in another video we can learn more about portrait design and how to get the character looking how we want. After face and hair is complete, the character is practically done. All you need to do is decide on a color palette and then polish. I personally prefer less saturated colors, and especially for this project I want to lean more towards dark and cool colors for most of the story. I'm not currently at these stages when it comes to designing my characters at the moment, but I am glad to say I have finally finished and polished my script and am ready to begin storyboarding. I will try to do weekly uploads for the process, even if it is something small, just so I can share as much of my progress as possible. I hope this video was helpful to at least one of you out there. If not, let us know in the comments what could be done better. And if you know of other ways we can level up our art skills, let us know that as well. Also, while you're down there, I would love it if you would subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can see what I do next. But until we meet again, I would just like to say, welcome to Edenwick.